Hi, my name's Kim Arnold. Welcome to my YouTube channel and the process video I'm doing today for Mixed Media Frenzy YouTube Hop. Today we're doing a scrap lift of this layout and I am doing something very different colour-wise but using the same fundamental layout. And that's my layout. So I'm starting with a mixed media background using Distress Oxides and the packaging technique. So this is simply a matter of smushing the Distress Oxide ink onto packaging material, adding water, and then smushing that onto your background. I will give you a tip though, don't use your nails to rub the oxide ink on because it will mark the background. I am using a Vicki Boutin's foundation paper as the foundation of my layout. I love how it can handle lots of water and mixed media techniques with limited buckling. So the colours that I'm using today to do this background with Distress Oxides, the dark blue is Faded Jeans, the green that I've just been working on is Twisted Citron, the darker green that I'm moving to next is Peeled Paint, the teal blue is Broken China, and the orange is Carved Pumpkin. So as you will have seen by the picture of the layout that I showed at the start, I'm doing tone-on-tone stars on these Distress Oxide mixed media background, and that's what I'm doing instead of using flowers. So the original layout was monochromatic, relatively monochromatic with a lot of flowers. Instead I'm doing colour tone on tone with stars because I'm choosing to do a masculine layout. I've also, instead of just the one squarish type photo, I've used two to create a squarish type photo space. And instead of the fancy ornate frame that has been used to the left of the photo, I have used more colourful frames, but the basics of the layout are still the same. So very different topic and colour choices and embellishment choices, but the foundation of the layout is very similar. So I'm just now moving on to some stamping with the Distress Oxide inks. When you see the original layout, it had stamping on it as well as texture paste, so I'm also doing that, so which will be the next step that I do. So at the moment what I've got is a Pink Fresh stamp, so they break down into individual segments. So this is a large chevron, and now I am using the same colour inks, putting that on for each section of the background, putting the ink onto the stamp, diluting it with some water on the stamp, and then applying the stamp 3 times over the existing colour. So it just means that you get a very subtle chevron effect in those background pieces of colour. I'm just redoing the orange one because it didn't show up clearly enough. It was very wet when I did the stamping, so I'm just going back and reapplying that. And now I'm going to set this layout aside to dry. Okay, so the layout's now dry, and I'm now going to use a modelling paste, just a white modelling paste, and apply it through a small star stencil. I like modelling paste when you apply it over Distress Oxides. As it dries, it absorbs the colour up from the Distress Oxides, so it is no longer completely stark white. So you can see from these pictures, which didn't show up the best in the pictures, but it actually absorbs up some of the colour so it doesn't stay stark white. Now I had a bit of a video malfunction, and it didn't video when I was laying out the stars on the layout. So this isn't stuck down yet. The photo is stuck down on foam tape, but the actual embellishments are not yet stuck down. So what I've done is just laid out the various stars that I had already fussy cut. Now these are from a Vicki Boutin paper. from the Let's Wander collection. So I fussy cut out heaps and heaps of the stars in the different colours that I used in the Distress Oxide background. And then I just laid them down on the background to see sort of whether I was getting close to the right number of stars. And now I'm going to either direct glue or use chipboard offcuts to pop up all of these stars. When I'm attaching them, I am bringing them in closer together and closer to the photo. So when I laid them out originally, I just put them down so I could get a feel for coverage. But when I actually attach them, I will group them in quite close against the photos. That mimics what was done in the original layout, with the photos being quite tightly clustered in that spray diagonally across the layout. So as I mentioned earlier, instead of that ornate frame that was on the original layout, I have chosen to use a black film strip, which I've backed with some pattern paper. Again, all of these are from the Let's Wander range. And then I've also cut out one of the Polaroid frame pieces of paper from one of the cut apart sheets, which I have put to the left of the photo. Now, instead of the large focal flower, I have used the camera die cut, and I've put another die cut above the photo. That's the paper plane. These photos are of my son with his medal after completing a triathlon challenge. The original layout didn't have a title, and it didn't have anywhere for journaling, and for me, this is a significant part of scrapbooking, is to record the story. So I have made space for those things, but I think I've kept with the fundamental feel of the layout of the original layout. So I'm continuing to work with, as I said, a wet glue, of which I use art glitter glue, and I have a thin dispenser for that to apply it. I like that as a wet glue. It's very strong. It dries completely clear, which is also great. So you can use it to attach most things. And then as I mentioned, I use chipboard offcuts, which I just cut to size to mount up or lift up items off my layouts. I was using foam tape, but my preference is now to use chipboard, and I've found a local source to get large sheets of chipboard, so I just cut that down. So yes, so you can see that I've used, so that star Vicki Boutin paper has lots of different colours of stars on it, which is where I got the inspiration for the different colours that I've used in the background. You can see it's that there's the dark navy blue moving into the darker green, the aqua green, the orange, and then back on the other side is that limey green colour. And then in the foam, in the Thickers title pack, there's a whole heap of little hearts and dots, which are also in those colours. So I've taken a heap of those from that packet of Thickers, and I'm using that in the same matching colourways to use in conjunction with the stars. So I'm just attaching that little paper plane. So I've just put some chipboard underneath the plain part, because the trail is a little bit too difficult, but it lays across the photo and the red frame, which are also popped up on chipboard, so they're at the same height as the paper plane, and so they support the trail of the paper plane. So I'm just continuing to work my way around to get all these stars attached down, and then I will consider whether I need to cut any additional stars to add to the layout, which I decided that I did need a few more stars, so I actually fussy cut some additional stars. Once I finished sticking all the ones that I had already cut down, I will cut out a few more just to fill in a few empty spaces that I feel are left. So once I got all of those stuck down, I decided that the red, although I liked it, was a little bit too red. So I actually went back to the Vicki Boutin pattern paper and found the lime green colour in another Polaroid frame. I just trimmed off the word that was on it because it didn't work for this layout. And I'm going to stick it over the top of the red frame that was already there. So I've had to ease the photo up because I had glued it, and the glue does hold very well, but luckily it came up. And I'm just going to stick that green in there, and you can just see what a difference that makes by putting that green frame in, and that's going to give me the perfect place to put my title, which is Go You, and allow space for me to have somewhere to journal. Which, as I said, is important to me when I scrapbook, is to record the stories. So I'm just going to stick all of that down, and I've also added another one of the little tealy blue stars, which matches the colour of Go and works with the colour that's on the right side of the photos. So I've stuck that down. Okay, so I've decided that there does need to be another dark blue star there, so I've cut that out and stuck that just above the red frame, and another little greeny coloured one to the left of the red frame there, and another blue one, and another blue star, and I believe that I'm happy with that now. And now I'm going to add my journaling, and the layout will then be done. There are still photos of the layout and close-ups of the mixed media work in the background coming up now. It'd be great if you could go and visit the other people participating in the Mixed Media Frenzy YouTube hop. Links to their various YouTube profiles are available in the description below. If you've enjoyed this video today, I'd appreciate if you press like, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thanks so much for joining me today.